I immigrated here, actually from South Korea. I bounced around 6 different homes. So lived in government homes to the 2 percentile. The thing about our clients, or the thing about the people that have it, they are the most normal people you'll ever meet. Shorts and a tank top and flip-flops. A shirt that might cost maybe $10, right? Just nice and simple, right?
That's the difference between a $100 million person and a $5 million person. A $5 million person wants to tell everybody he's worth $5 million. He probably tells people he's worth $10 million.
Usually.
The $100 million doesn't want you to know shit.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like I've succeeded in life, right? Broke some records with Porsche, beat cancer with my wife. Life is good. Stay positive.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. And keep doing what's right for others. If you help enough individuals win, you're gonna win.
Well, excellent. Well, today I've got Paul Kim, who is a loyal Instagram follower for the Path to Success podcast. And Paul actually is one of the top sales guys for Lamborghini of Houston. He also sells McLarens and Rolls Royces. And man, I'm just so grateful to have you in the podcast studio, Paul. You're a family man. You're a top producer. You're very, very networked with ultra high net worth individuals. And so I'm sure you've got tea on a lot of the guys and gals in Houston. And so I don't know if you feel comfortable spilling the tea on everybody, but I hope to hear a little bit of stories today. Thanks for being in the studio.
Yes, thanks for having me here, Mr. Benson.
Well, good. Well, my name's Jeremy. I'm not 40 yet. I do turn 40 next month, and I'm throwing a big birthday party. But maybe when I turn 40, you can call me Mr. Jensen. But anyways, Paul, so yeah, man, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How'd you end up in Houston? And what drew you to the luxury car industry?
Well, I immigrated here, actually from South Korea.
Okay.
So I moved actually to Dallas first, and I bounced around 6 different homes. Bounced around through families, and every household got better and better. And
When you say bounced around through families, you were like a foster child.
I was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I was fortunate that it was all relatives that took turn.
Okay.
So lived in government homes to the 2 percentile, which was, I would say, in Houston. So last household that took care of me was in Houston. And I went to school at University of Houston. Actually have an accounting degree.
Excellent.
And somehow I fell in the auto industry. At first, actually, I was rejected a couple of times because they said I was too nerdy.
Okay. You're still a little bit nerdy. You just have a
am.
nicer suit now.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't actually. I'm glad I'm nerdy.
Yeah.
So my first, I would say, auto industry was with Sewell.
Okay.
And probably the best organization that I worked for. They're client focused, and it's all about the customer experience. And they did teach me that through training with Dale Carnegie, right? All the old classic way, ask for their hand before their business.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, I was recruited to Porsche in Dallas. I was a manager for Sewell, and then when I departed, I moved to Porsche. And when I was with Porsche at Park Place, Dallas, they wanted me to basically produce. And at first, I really didn't know the brand, and I knew there was limited vehicles, right? They don't sell a lot of Porsches, but I had my quota. Yep. I said, I hope to sell 8 to 10, and it turned out I was selling probably 30 to 40.
Wow, what year was this?
This was back in 2020 and 21.
Okay.
And so, fast forward with Park Place Porsche, I broke the company's record in sales for Porsches.
Excellent.
And then they promoted me to sales manager and new car director in 21. And I was selling close to 60% of all new car inventory, and we had about 11 salespeople.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
So people that buy luxury vehicles like to buy from nerdy individuals is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think gave you a competitive advantage on that sales floor?
Well, I'm going to go back to Sewell, where my finance director, Eddie Hunter, You know, at first when I started, I didn't know what to do. I thought you have to be fancy or you have to have the cool handshake or say something, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, Eddie, man, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And Eddie was like, Paul, you're the nicest kid I ever met.
Yep.
And he was like, just be you.
Just be you.
Just be you. And I was like, just be me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so I just help people.
Yeah.
And so I talk to them just how I am today. When I go home, I'm the same guy. When I'm at work, I'm the same guy. And what really helped my sales career was really the transparency and honesty. I think in any relationship, right, or any business, without transparency and trust, you have nothing. And so it was easy for me because that's how I grew up. And I was very thankful because of my life circumstance built me to who I am today. And so in the auto industry, it's really a people business.
Absolutely.
And I just tried to help. And if it worked out, it worked out. And if it didn't, it didn't.
Yeah, but you probably built trust and rapport with that individual that went out into the community and became an influencer for you, for somebody that is ready to buy, right? Even if you didn't make the sale to them. Well, excellent. You know, it's funny about transparency. Like myself, I go in to buy cars all the time for myself, for my family, and I own a company. Like, I know that companies are in business to make money. You know, it's okay if you've got a markup. I want to know, how does the salesperson get paid, right? You know, it's just general curiosity. And so I'm not trying to like completely pull one over on the company, but I want to get a fair deal. I don't want to get fucked over, right? And so it's important. But I will say that the best car buying experience that I've ever had was from Sewell. And it was Sewell up north in spring. I think it might have been Sewell Mercedes, but I bought a used certified pre-owned Audi R8. And I remember buying the car, and this was a sticker, and I went into finance and I looked, and there were no additional fees, no window etching, no, $1,000 document fee or whatever. And I was like expecting to get fucked over. And it was like the most transparent and honest transaction that I'd ever made. And so I'm a big fan of Sewell as well. And then I also had a Porsche whenever I was married back in 2016. I had a Panamera Turbo.
Oh, those are nice.
Yeah, it's super nice. And that's what introduced me to all-wheel vehicles.
All-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive. And it's so funny. I'll tell this story real quick. So I got used to this Panamera where I could take a corner going, 70, 80 miles an hour, no sweat. It's all-wheel drive. And it was like 2018, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to go buy a Z06. I'm going to go through a midlife crisis at 34 years old, right?
It's no midlife crisis.
And so I go to Classic Chevrolet, and I've got, a blank check in my hand, and I'm ready to write a check for this Z06. And the salesman, he goes, you want to take it for a test drive? And I'm like, yeah, might as well. All right, let's take it for a test drive. And so then, so we pull out onto 59 South, and then we do the little U-turn to go under the freeway. That way we can go south instead of north up the feeder. And then the light turned green for these people, for the people to go. And I had to make a split decision. Do I stop and let them go? Or do I hit the gas and get in front of them? So I'm in a Z06, rear-wheel drive with 707 horsepower probably, right?
Oh, boy.
I hit the gas. I end up sideways on the feeder road on 59 South. I correct, and I end up sideways the other way. I overcorrect, and somehow, by the grace of God, I straighten out. I don't hit anything, no curbs, nothing. The salesperson's in the passenger seat. He looks at me and he goes, "That was awesome!" And to this day, man, I tell you, I don't think that I can own anything but an all-wheel drive vehicle. So I've got a Panamera Turbo, an Audi R8, a GTR, right? All these all-wheel drives, and people are always saying, Jeremy, Lambo. Jeremy,
come on.
Jeremy,
come on.
But I haven't seen an all-wheel drive one.
We actually have them.
What is it?
We do. Huracan.
A Huracan, okay.
All-wheel drive.
I'm a little bit too big to fit into a Huracan. I've driven one once, and it was a convertible, so the headroom was a little limited. But anyway, so let me get into another question. So You've got tons of cool stories related to obviously immigration, growing up in a foster home community, right? Failure, success, triumph. Obviously, seeing other individuals that are essentially posers, right?
Right.
Playing characters, trying to generate clout from the community, right? When they have no business trying to act like this character. The serial entrepreneurs, they tend to have a legacy business that they started, right? And then they say, who's the biggest check that I write every year? And with this trucking company, he probably said, I have to replace my windshields a lot. Let me go buy a windshield company, right? That way, whenever I'm writing a check, at least I'm writing a check to myself, right? So like my friends that are in real estate, that are super vertically integrated and have generational wealth, right? Not the guys that are making $1-2 million a year. They're worth 50, 60, 70 million dollars at 40 years old. They've got a mortgage brokerage. They've got a construction company, an investment company, a development company, right? And then sometimes even a title company or an inspection company, because if you're going to get commission on that deal, you might as well capture every single, just like I've heard that the service department is the most profitable aspect of any car dealership. Is that right?
1,000,000%.
That's wild to me, because I look at a car that costs $400,000, and I'm assuming that you guys are, making 10% gross margin on something like that, right? And I just like, man, you sell 200 of those a month. That's a lot.
Well, so the exotic car world is very limited. And so volume-wise, you're talking 10 Lambos. Right?
Understood.
If it was new, that's a good month. And so it's a good thing. But on the other side, you can say a Porsche side, right? So with my previous Porsche store, we sold maybe 60 to 70 new Porsches a month. And so that's a lot. That's a lot. And so, but the servicing side is always still more profitable than
that's
the
excellent.
sales side.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the glass business. Actually, this week, as a matter of fact, on Monday, it was President's Day, and I stayed at home with my kids. They were off school. And I had Safelite come out because I was driving to Deer Park a couple weeks before to do a speaking engagement for HR Houston. And so I had all these HR managers, and I was on stage and I was talking about why employees quit jobs and how you can retain them and how you can recruit them. And I was on I-10 going east, and this fucking 18-wheeler kicked up a rock, and it made a little bitty chip in my BMW M8 competition, all-wheel drive.
That's
and
probably $5,000.
And I was like, oh man, there's that damn chip. And then I come out from the speaking engagement, and it had grown because it was cold outside, right? And so it was funny. Whenever the technician came and he showed me the bill, he was like, "Hey, are you okay with it?" I was like, "We're in River Oaks, man. It's it's good." But it's funny because I feel like luxury vehicles, it's one of those deals to where if you have to ask for the price, you probably can't afford it. I don't know. But especially entrepreneurs, we kind of like to get good deals. And so that to your point, you just want to know.
Yes. And so I think that's a great statement, right? Because that's always very confusing. But if you have a clear thought and clear intentions and just answer the question. And just have no other thought besides helping them get the answer that they're requesting. And so, it's interesting, and that's the mindset that I had to have to be successful actually in sales. Because sometimes, like you just mentioned, you want the best deal, and that's probably why you're wealthy, right? There's some people that believe, hey, the wealthy stay wealthy because they're cheap. Well, they make sure they get the deals, right? When there is why would you just leave $5 or $10 grand on the ground, right? You just wouldn't. If you know you can get the deal. And so, and then there's the opposite, right? And there's some mindsets that I run into, right? The hyper guys. I categorize groups, and lately I've been meeting the wealthy people with 50 plus, right? And for myself, I don't really care what they make. So I never really dig deep unless they tell me. Because it's not my money. And really, I'm just here to help them.
Yeah,
right?
and it doesn't, wealth doesn't equate to character or integrity or
success,
or
actually.
success. Or are you even fun? Do I want to hang out with you? Do I want to go to dinner with you?
Right.
Yeah.
Because, success could be described in several different ways. I think sometimes the most successful people might make just $250,000 because they might have the family, right? The perfect marriage. They have the kids, the white picket fence. We're in America. That was the American dream.
And they're no debt sometimes.
No debt.
Yeah.
They live below their means.
Yep.
They're happy. They still get to go on the same vacation. Really, life doesn't really change. And so back in 2011...
I call bullshit because life has changed a lot between 250 and today.
You're right. You can definitely do more fun things.
Sure, fun things. Yeah.
Right? But in the same amount, you can find different enjoyments and different life experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah, because whenever I was married and living in the suburbs and had a dual income household, my ex-wife is a very successful petroleum engineer. We probably were making $700,000 dual income. And it's like, I had 3 kids under 4. I didn't need a Lamborghini. I didn't need a Rolls Royce or Ferrari. I was happy with my Toyota Tundra,
Great trucks.
And we were just banking.
That's right.
We were banking. And then, you give a guy a couple $1 million and make him single and release him into the wild. And then COVID hits, you get a little confused. You get a little liberal with your money, right? Do. And so it's like I was definitely far more disciplined, right, whenever I was living in the suburbs on that kind of like fixed income, if you will. Yeah. Well, good. So I want to ask you a question. So we talked about the really nice clients, right? The ones that had moved from the north that were entrepreneurs and they bought the land for retirement.
Right.
Tell me about a story whenever you had to deal with a really difficult client and how did you overcome that challenge and turn it into an opportunity?
Great question. And so this is where patience and humility comes into factor. And it's something that our world right now, in the digital world, people don't understand. That's what the greatest successful people have. They have humility. The greatest leaders are humble and they have humility. And, for myself, my job is to sell a car, right? And so if I work at a dealership, well, no matter who they are, I'm no one to judge them or their character, but I might not agree with what they do on their life, and I'll share. I had a client, was over at Porsche back then, and I was training one of my sales ladies at that time as well, and I told her to stay away from this guy, far, 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 far away, mainly because I already knew what I knew, and I knew that wasn't the guy that she was looking for.
Sure.
And so this gentleman...
she was romantically interested in him?
Well, he looked great.
Okay.
He was giving all the moves. He
Sure.
looked the part, Louis Vuitton belt.
Yeah.
I mean, he got the Louis shoes.
Yeah,
he looked like $1 million,
Sure.
right? And the crazy story behind all of this is he looked the part, but he couldn't put even $1,000 down deposit to hold the car. It was 10 different lady friends' money that he used to get the car and their credit help as well.
Did they know about each other?
I don't think so. And
So he's a sugar baby is what it sounds like.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a lot of them out there.
Male.
There's a lot of them out there.
Love that.
There's a lot of them out there, and even the guys that they might not be like that, but it's just who people want and the vision, right? Because a lot of people these days, because of I think the phone and social media, they think having the cars or the nicer materialistic things is wealth and success.
Sure.
And it's not. And these guys or gals, they'll do whatever it takes to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe be a little liberal, right? Bend the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, I think that's kind of what we don't need in life. And that's me speaking out is really because at the time I was taught not to say anything nice or not to say anything mean if I don't have anything nice to say.
Mm-hmm.
But we stay quiet long enough, right? The actual guys that are putting in the work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then the guys or the kids or the younger generation, they're going to be watching the fuckboys or the guys that are manipulating the system or cheating the system, and they think that's the right way to do it. And so I try to really give back to the community and the younger generation that, you know, hey, you can be a nice guy and you can be honest and transparent and you could do it the right way and be successful in life.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I speak openly about and I take a lot of pride in is, you know, my reputation is far more valuable than $1 million, $2 million, right? And you know, if you grind and hustle your whole life, and let's say that maybe I could have fought for that extra 10%, that 20%, or fuck that person over their commission because by the letter of the contract, I'm not obligated to pay them, right? But, you know, it's like, what's the difference of dying with 100 million instead of 60 million? You know, you can be honest. You can be authentic, right? You don't need to fuck people over. You can do it the right way.
Right.
And what I've found is when you do it the right way, people trust you. They're more loyal. They're more inclined to recommend their family and their friends to come work for you, right?
Correct.
And that's really what breeds scalability is whenever you have good processes, good systems, strong character, and you really, really stick to your values, which it sounds like you've done a great job of. Well, good. So what I want you to do is I want you to talk about a time whenever you had to think creatively in order to close a deal or overcome an obstacle.
This is great, actually. This is kind of where it, for my career over at Porsche, that's when I really blossomed in the sales world. And so during COVID time, everybody was trapped. Everybody was scared. They didn't know what was going on. You know, this virus, right? And so at that time, I was with my wife, girlfriend then, and she had cancer, right? She had cancer. And so I couldn't, it's like, well, I don't want to get this virus because I don't want to jeopardize my girlfriend. And so it was very challenging. And what do you do, right? How can you show a car? How can you sell these $100,000 vehicles without the customers actually coming to the store? And so we were all trapped. And what do we do? Well, I was like, well, I got a phone and I can create videos and I can send them some photos and just to every customer.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. And so what I did over at Porsche Grapevine, every delivery, every customer, got a video walk around, got photos. And then also I did, which was really fun, I did car reveals digitally. So one of my sales associates helped me reveal every car. And so we would video a car reveal. Hey, your car is going to arrive. And so we did that on every single deal, and I went viral.
Excellent. So your customers had an emotional investment in this purchase, just like if they were on the sales floor long before they even took delivery of the vehicle.
Yes.
Because you went above and beyond in order to create that stickiness and that buying experience.
Right.
Well, good, man. So I'm terribly sad to hear about your wife's cancer. How is she doing now?
Actually, it's the best news ever because that's actually my biggest accomplishment, by the way, is my wife.
Okay.
And so she just beat cancer.
Man,
and
that's
so
awesome.
she just came home actually last week.
Okay.
And and she actually, it's crazy because I lost 2 members with cancer, and it was my grandfather and one of my aunts that also helped take care of me. And when I met her, her boyfriend left her, and we met on Tinder. And I met her on Tinder because my work schedule in the auto sales, we never have time to really meet people.
Sure.
And on our first date, she told me basically, hey, I have cancer. And so I'm like, man, this is, wow. She looked beautiful. I couldn't tell, right? She had T-cell lymphoma. And so I told some of my close friends.
Lymphoma is in the lymph nodes?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's in the lymph nodes, and then it was in her blood. And so tumors will appear everywhere.
Wow.
And it goes back to, like, for myself, I was more worried for her. Man, how's her mental health at that point? Because as a lady or even a guy these days, the way we appear, it's a lot. It means a lot, especially at an early age. She was 21 when I met her at the time. And she beat it now 5 years. So she's had cancer for 5 years, and she just recently beat it. But it was one of those things that I thought about. If I had cancer, and will she leave me or whoever I'm with? Sure. Right? No, hopefully not. And I wouldn't do that to someone else. And so I treated the relationship as if she didn't have it. And God blessed me with a great job, with the funds and resources. So I just took it as, hey, this is your girlfriend. This might be your wife. And so, sorry, where was I?
No, I mean, I think that you shared the story, and I asked about your wife's cancer, and you shared that so, that she beat it, and that it's your greatest accomplishment as your wife. Yeah.
And so, yes, she is my greatest accomplishment because of, it. You have to have faith and hope to say, hey, we're going to tackle this and beat it.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, she tried to leave me after 3 months. So this is actually where I married her, because that's right when she needed to go start the treatment for the chemo.
Yeah, she didn't want to be a burden on you. She wanted to free you of that emotional burden and financial burden, which was impending as well. And luckily, you stuck around and stuck it through. Are you guys going to start a family now that she's cancer-free?
It's to be determined.
Okay.
I've always wanted kids.
Yep.
Always wanted kids. But right now, because of what she went through medical, she's not able to.
Okay.
And so I think in the future, if something were to happen, we might adopt. We don't know. So we're open, but we're enjoying our moment now that she's beaten cancer.
Excellent.
And so.
Excellent. Man, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. I could see that you got a little bit emotional, and I'll admit that I did as well. So I will ask you, we talked a little bit about it. We touched on it. So how has your definition of success evolved over the years, right? We'll talk about what success looked like at a young age, kind of like getting started in business, whenever you found the car industry and started experiencing some financial success, and then today, how has it evolved?
That's a great question, because it constantly changes. It changes because I get wiser as we experience more in life. And, I was fortunate at an early age. I went through the struggles because my definition of success was not to hurt anyone. And so I didn't want to be like my parents and go through a divorce. I know sometimes we can't choose that, so I understand. But I knew as a child going to school and Parents' Day, not having parents there. So I made it a point when I was 6 or 7 years old, Parents' Day with no parents. I said, I don't want that for my kid. And so anything that hurt me or that I saw pain in another colleague or student, I would bring them up because why not, right? Life is too short. And so my definition of success as a kid, I wanted to have my own family, white picket fence, and be able to support. But I was mentally damaged, actually.
Yeah.
I had a lot of what I considered failing relationships with my households. But that wasn't really the case because it was my relatives and family, they just wanted to get the best household. So I bounced, every household got better and better and better. And yeah.
But you didn't see it at the time. You thought that you were not worthy of love, right? And that they were abandoning you. And in actuality, they were just preparing you for the next level in life. You know, it's funny. You just gave me a light bulb moment. And because we talk about, you know, abandoning and divorce and this and that. And so Parents' Day for us in my household, even though I'm divorced, we have 3 parents that show up for Parents' Day.
That's awesome.
You've got the mom, you've got the dad, and you've got the stepdad, right? We're at everything. The stepdad is the coach of the basketball teams, and dad is the sponsor for the teams with the company logo on the back, right? And so I play my role, he plays his role, and it's funny. I call him Ned Flanders to his face. He's an amazing guy, but you know, he's got a master's in geology. He's a really kind of a nerdy guy, somewhat like yourself, right? But like he's the most incredible stepfather to my kids. He's the leader of the Boy Scout troop. If we were like the movie Liar Liar, I would be Fletcher Reed, the attorney, and then he would be the Claw, right? So,
it's funny.
but great guy. But you talk about divorce. And I never really had an aversion or guilt and shame associated with like moving forward with the divorce, even though I came from a divorced household, because I realized one thing as you were talking. And what it was for me is my parents didn't get divorced. My dad abandoned us. My dad literally packed his shit in the middle of the night and left. I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. And I didn't see him again for probably 10 years. He had gotten out of prison, and my mom ended up inviting him back into the home. And I carried so much hate and resentment for this individual. And my mom told me that they had never been divorced the whole time that he'd been gone. That because he had been in a car accident and he was on, you know, medication and he didn't have health insurance, that she just kept him on her health insurance because it was paid for by her company. And it's just so funny because I was not afraid of getting divorced, but I will never abandon my children because of that childhood trauma, you know? But it's funny how like your most influential years in your life are kind of like before you're a teenager even.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable, man. So I do want to ask you, so what role does networking play in your industry, right? You're meeting me today. I'm obviously a prospect for you. Tell me about some of the relationships that you've forged in the community, right? And what's been maybe the most fruitful networking relationship that has bared fruit for you?
When it's organic, when it's genuine, it's always the genuine sincerity, right? At this point in age, really, you know, I feel like I've succeeded in life, right? Broke some records with Porsche, beat cancer with my wife. Life is good. I'm married. Things are good. And so when I have genuine friendships or a common ground, and so I continue to just be myself. And that's what makes it very easy. And what's easy in life is everyone wants to be treated the way they want to be treated. Everyone wants to be treated nicely.
Sure.
And they want a purpose, right? Or they want to be heard or loved. And so the relationship aspect, I genuinely care about people when I listen to their stories. And so most of my most fruitful deals or transactions or deals, I've done 15 deals with one individual, right? They're usually they become my friends because I got to really know them, right? And some of them, It's actually, what's crazy is I had a client friend, he's in Dallas, and an older gentleman, right? And he wanted a GT3. And the GT3, all the cool guys get the GT3, right? And he was older, and he's like, man, no one takes their day out of their time to really help me order a GT3.
Yeah.
And he was an older gentleman, right?
How old are we talking? 70s, 80s?
60s.
60s? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
60s.
you could still get in and out of a GT3.
You can. And so
I used to weigh 280, and I would regularly drive a GT2. And I'll tell you, those rigid seats, it's a racing
They
car. At 280, it's hard to get in and out of those bad boys.
It's hard for even a small guy like myself to get in and out. It hurts my back. I understand.
Yeah.
And so, he asked me, he's like, Paul, my dream was always to build one or inspect one.
Excellent.
And I said, okay, great. Well, for us, we have to, there's such a limited allocation. I said, we have to give it to our good repeat clients or someone that's done business with us.
Sure.
And so at that time, we just opened up Porsche Grapevine, and he wanted to order a GT3. And so I said, look, they're going for over sticker. And so this is where the transparency. Well, if you purchase this vehicle, I know you don't want this car, but if you get this car, you get to order, inspect one, and then you can...
For sticker. Wow.
And continue. And so at that time, now people will do it all day.
100%.
They'll raise their hands because they'll be like, oh. But at that time, that was crazy talk.
Sure.
That was crazy talk.
This is like mid-2020.
Yeah. No, actually it was 19. 2019.
Oh, love it.
And
they were already going for over sticker.
They were.
Before PPP hit the economy.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the other challenging factor was he was out of state.
Yeah.
So how do I build a rapport with this gentleman? So
Sure.
I talked to my client friend. I'm talking, every conversation was an hour to 2 hours every day for a month. And so him and I got to know each other very well. And what it boiled down to was he adopted 2 Chinese girls, and he lost his wife. And so it was kind of the bonding of our past life and just being human. And so we became just friends just off of just what him and I have gone through. And so I could relate and I can speak, oh man, I'm sure your daughters are very appreciative. So, with that friendship, he was like, well, okay, so we got the connection. Okay, Paul, you're a good guy.
So you sold him a 718.
I sold him a Turbo S that he didn't take delivery on.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he bought the car.
The Turbo S's are nice.
Yeah, but he didn't want it. It was a $250,000 car.
Yeah.
He bought it at asking.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll sell it back to you. And he sold it back to us for wholesale.
He took a 40K wash. 30.
Oh, you are good. Yeah, something like that. Right on the money. Yeah, right on the money.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, my VP, he has a 2023 BMW M5 Competition Plus or Competition Sport. And he paid a premium for it, last year. And then he ended up getting in a car accident. He went to go trade it in. And boy, I'll tell you, $60,000, $70,000 wash on that, right?
Hurts.
And so he's like, I'm just going to fucking keep it as an extra vehicle now. It's just funny when you get to a certain level of wealth, it almost seems like the individuals that are buying cars for $250,000, $300K, they just trade them in every year.
They do.
Because if you can afford a car at that level, you don't care about losing $40,000.
That's right.
You want the car.
That's right. And that's really, and that's, I think in my sales career, that's what I did very well, was conversating the facts. And so once you know the kind of the buying cycle and then the trading cycle, well, you're gonna do it anyways.
Absolutely.
And why don't you just this is the easiest and quickest path.
Yeah.
And so the math worked, but it was an unknown territory because he's never bought a car that he didn't want and just sold it back. But it happened, and he was in his mid-60s.
Yeah.
And then we became friends, and actually the whole dealership became friends with him because we talked an hour.
What was the
to 2
lead time
hours.
on that GT3? 18 months?
Not 18 months. It was 8 months.
Oh, good. So he was happy. He was
months.
excited. He felt good about that transaction.
He felt great. And actually, I sold him 2 more other cars. And I think recently he tried reaching out because he misses basically just the conversation.
100%.
And it's really...
He'll call you and buy something just to talk to Paul Kim.
That's right.
I love that.
And so...
I have a buddy that... he buys and sells very rare Rolexes, right? And it's a hobby. He doesn't really do it to make money. His personal watch collection is probably worth over $3 million bucks.
Wow.
But he'll fly to St. Lucia because he has an AD there that gives him preferential treatment. He'll fly to St. Lucia, pick up 4 watches because that's part of the deal in order to get this super exclusive one that probably retails at 60, but aftermarket it's 120, you know? And then so he won't even stay in St. Lucia. He'll fly, pick them up, fly back same day, and sell the watches that he had to buy in order to get the exclusive one at a 5% loss, whatever.
That's a crazy world we live in.
It is a crazy world, but he loves it. He's such a deal chaser.
Yeah, deal.
He got this $120K watch for 60 grand, you know?
It's a game.
It's a game, and he's never going to sell it. There's no way. He doesn't care about market fluctuation.
It's a trophy.
Well, excellent. Well, I shared a funny story earlier with you about my near spin out on a test drive.
Right.
Give me a crazy story about a test drive, right? And I know when you're going in and buying a $500,000 car, you don't really get to test drive those. You don't put miles on a GT3 RS, right? But give me a funny story that occurred on a test drive.
I had a 21-year-old kid walk into the Porsche store right before closing, 30 minutes before. And at that time, I just started with Porsche. And he came from the Infiniti store, and he said, hey, look, they wouldn't let me test drive at Q60. He's like, I can pay cash.
SUV? Oh.
No, the Red Sport,
okay.
the coupe.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, really? I was like, across the street? I was like, they won't let you? And so I do what I normally do. I get to know them, right?
Yeah. What do you do?
What do you do? What's going on, right? Because they're in the store.
Sure.
You already know why they're buyers.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone's like, it's like you got to do a little foreplay before you get to the action, right? I mean, on life. So I was like, okay, so I got to know him.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow, this kid.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He actually dropped out of high school, but he was very smart, very street smart, very witty, and he was selling train barrels or carts, and I was like, how'd you get into that? He's like, well, I got to know this guy, and I found out, so I went and bought it, and I started flipping train rails, and then I started buying old medical equipment and flipping them to, and I was like, wow.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, and I just bought my mom an Escalade
Excellent.
right there. That's all I needed to hear.
And he's not full of shit. You can tell.
I can tell immediately.
Okay.
I just bought my mom an Escalade.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can tell immediately when someone's being genuine. And so the stories, it's
because the way he lights up when he tells the story.
Right. And I could tell he had a
100%.
passion for his family.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay. And so he pointed out a Cayman that we had, Cayman S. And
a Q60 to a Cayman S?
I know.
Good for him. I'm glad they turned him
I
down.
know. So it was 35 grand more.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
a lot more.
Yeah.
So it was like, I think it was over 100.
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And so
Those are nice cars
they
for
are. They're-
entry.
they're
21-year-old kid's a great car.
that's amazing.
Yeah, you put
For-
him in a
for-
Turbo S.
For anyone.
That guy's driving into a fucking
Yeah,
wall.
you're right. You're right. And so, well, it was a manual.
Yeah.
It was a manual.
Okay.
He's never driven a manual.
Yeah.
This 30 minutes before closing.
Yeah.
Guess what I did? I test drove with him.
Yeah, you're his driving instructor now.
So what happened? I was like, get in the car. He's like, I'll learn how to drive. I was
Yep.
like, I'll teach you. I was like, I'll teach you, bro. And so I taught him. Actually, I had
Yep.
to teach him. So the craziest sell, right?
Love it.
So we go on a test drive. I'm downshifting and burple and everything. He's like, oh, this is badass. And then, so then he's like, okay, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
We do a credit app. He gets approved. He bought a car that he couldn't drive.
Love that.
And so I had to teach him how to drive.
That.
And since then, so he bought from Park Place, Dallas from me. And then when I moved to Porsche Grapevine, he bought from me from Grapevine.
Love.
And then I moved to Houston. And last year he called and he actually sold me 2 of his cars.
Yep.
That he bought from my old store.
Excellent.
Because it's the relationship.
100%.
100%.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so he's like, I miss you. I was like, I miss you too, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and so we built this relationship. He has a kid, and actually he's got a second one.
Love that.
So it's fun, right?
Yeah.
It's genuine relationship.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to order a 911. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
Excellent.
And so it's, I'm thinking his name is Izzy. He's a good guy.
I love that.
He actually owns a Rolex store. So in Dallas, he's a big timer. But I got to meet him on the ground floor.
100%.
And so
I love that. So you know who's bought 2 vehicles and couldn't drive them? This guy right here.
Oh wow.
19 years old. My best friend. So I was the general manager of a Pizza Hut. Right. I hold the record for being the youngest Pizza Hut Rookie of the Year general manager in Central Region history, right? I'm 19 years old. My best friend, he buys a motorcycle from a Suzuki shop. I ride it. I'm like, wow, this is cool. Like, I see him ride it. I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. So I go to Richmond Suzuki, right, over on 359 in Pecan Grove, Texas, and I run a credit app. I'm 19 years old. He says, you can buy anything you want in the store.
Right.
I didn't even know I could. So I pick out this, Katana 750. It wasn't a Gixxer or anything like that, but it was a sport bike. And we run a credit app. It's like 1.9, interest. And I get all the, the gear, the this. And I go out and I go, all right, now show me how to ride it. He's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. Apparently they don't even ask you if you have a motorcycle license, which I didn't have, right? And
it's
so
crazy.
he showed me how to ride the motorcycle in the parking lot of Richmond Suzuki stop. Right?
That's amazing.
I know. And then I rode it home. And you at a stoplight, I'm trying to take off in second gear. It dies out. I'm like, oh shit, people are behind me, and
nervous.
But I figured it out. It took one day. Fast forward a year later. I'm on like cars.com, and there's this beautiful BMW 330i up on Kirkendall in Spring, right? And so I go up there, I took a look at it, I write a check, here you go. And luckily I brought my cousin
19?
with me. Well, now I'm 20.
You're 20 and you're writing checks for BMW 330s?
Yeah.
That's success.
Well, success is relative.
Right.
I was more successful than 99.9% of 20-year-olds. We'll put it to you that way.
Well, I want to actually, sorry.
But it was a manual, and my cousin had to drive it home for me. Yeah, and then he taught me in the parking lot of a Walmart at like 10:30. Yeah, but you figure it out, dude.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's the mark of a good entrepreneur is you sell it first or you buy it first, and then you figure it out because you're just that confident in your ability. Yeah, but what were you going to say?
I forgot actually, but it wasn't important.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know. So I bought a manual vehicle and then I bought a motorcycle. Didn't know how to drive either one of them, but you figure it out, right? And I think that's really contributes to my confidence in business is I just go running.
Actually, okay.
I go running towards it. I don't run away from challenges.
Well, I wanted to go back to when you said you were number 1 general manager at the Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
To be number 1 in anything, I don't care what it is. To be number 1, that right there was your blueprint that you were going to be what you are today, and we don't even know where you're gonna land.
100%,
right?
You're right.
And so to be able to be number 1, that's incredible. That's actually where you find the real talent and the real people. So no, congratulations.
Well, in order to get that award, Rookie of the Year for Pizza Hut Central Region, what I had to do was I had to understand how the system worked, right? I was being graded on my my secret shopper scores. I was being graded on my delivery times, my labor yield, my inventory cost variance analysis, right? And at 19 years old, really understanding how the system worked, then I could hyper focus on the right activities in order to get A+ in every category, right?
That's really hard to do.
Yeah. And so that bonus for winning that award, what it lead to? BMW 330i, right? And so it's literally a snowball effect in life, right? If you focus on the tactical KPIs, that leads to the results lead to the monetary gain, right? And it's funny because I asked you earlier, how does your definition of success change with every season of life? And I'm going to just quickly share how mine did. When I was young, I was hyper focused on making money. Then I got money, right? I got money, got a divorce, handed my wife a cashier's check for $1.93 million, right? Wow. Woke up the next day and realized, fuck, I don't feel any different. I still have a very successful company that's profitable, right? I still have money and I have assets, right? I basically got $1 million in my company and she got everything else that we owned, right? And that it was the engine of the business that I realized was my most valuable asset, not the money in the bank. Does that make sense?
It does.
Right? And so when I realized that it really wasn't about money, that's whenever I shifted and said, okay, now I'm going to focus on power, right? How can I control the verticals that I go into? How can I control the relationships and the centers of influence, right? Money, power, right? Then once I had power, then I started to focus on influence, right? I remember whenever I was separated, I was renting a room from a guy, had an Audi R8 in the driveway, had $1 million in the bank, right? And I was renting a room from a guy that I'd met on Facebook Marketplace for $1,000 a month. And he was in Independence Heights, right? And I literally had no friends, zero. All my friends were Katie dads, right? That I had just left and moved inside the loop. And it was a Saturday night, and I remember telling him, I was like, hey, man, what are you going to do? He's like, oh, I'm going to go in here. I remember inviting myself. Hey, do you mind if I join? He said, fuck no. He's like, get your own friends. And I was like, oh, man, like, I didn't know the guy. I just met him on Facebook Marketplace.
Really?
Yeah. His name was Tyler.
Really?
I'm probably exaggerating a little bit.
That's crazy.
But he said, dude, you got to get on Instagram. That's what he said. You got to get on Instagram. I said, I'm already on Facebook. I'm already on LinkedIn. What do I need to get on Instagram for? He goes, I promise you, all the girls are on Instagram. And so it was that night. It was January 26, 2019. I created an Instagram, and my very first post was like the picture of a fucking glass of bourbon. It took me a while to get comfortable being on camera, right? To get a photo of myself posted.
Right.
And it's funny because once I had money, once I had power, now I starved for this influence, right? And for years, you look at the last 5 years now, it's been January of 2019 of really hyper-focusing on this influence aspect. And fortunately, it's created a positive yield in my social life and in my business of people that want to work with me, work for me. But I'm in this new season of life to where I think that success is tied to respect, right? And what I mean by that is I want to pursue respect and admiration from people who I respect and admire. And I'll give you just a quick experience share because I was talking to my friend Katie the other night when we were going on a walk. And she was like, Jeremy, this guy, he's trying to pursue me. He's dating another girl who's a Twin Peaks waitress. Why would this man be interested in me and be interested in a Twin Peaks waitress, right? And I said, well, I'll give you an example. If I show up to Sky High for Kids charity ball,
right,
and I've got a Twin Peaks waitress on my arm, visible tattoos, 23 years old, I say, do you think that those successful philanthropists in that room, do you think that they respect me for the woman that I'm with? She said, no, probably not. So what if I showed up with you, Katie? Very emotionally intelligent, very age appropriate, beautiful, all natural, self-made career woman. She goes, yeah, we're a power couple. I go, that's Bingo. Respect. I said, the guy is going through a little bit of a struggle right now from trying to decide, does he want respect from people who he respects and admires, or is he willing to just take what's easy, what slides into his DMs because she wants a free fucking dinner at Steak 48 or Katami or Rumi's or Uchiko, right? It's hard to say no to what's easy. The donut, the slice of pizza that's sitting there on the fucking table staring you in the face, that's the Twin Peaks waitress. And what I've realized is that's whenever you get to the next level is finding power in saying no and having the discipline.
That's powerful.
100%. That's what success is to me, man. That's how I lost 77 pounds. That's how I was able to successfully rebrand from being the fucking fuckboy in the Heights, right? That's what got me here, but what's going to get me there? That's what's important, to have that eye-opening experience.
Thank you for sharing.
Well, good, man. Well, we've been here for a little bit over an hour, Paul. I want to ask you one thing, man. If you could reflect on the journey that you've had over the last 20 years, right? What piece of advice would you give to your younger self, right, in order to help that individual achieve success in life?
Stay positive.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. And keep doing what's right. Always focus on doing what is right for others. Not what's for yourself, for others. If you help enough individuals win, you're going to win. It's guaranteed. And, you know, I go back to my career. Well, I was a director. I'm in sales. I could sit in management position. I have offers that I've declined. To that point, I said no, right? If I was chasing a title, you don't need a title to be a leader, or you don't need to have a title to be successful, or whatever the stigma of what life is saying. And I think this is why I was attracted to your Path to Success podcast, was because of how raw and genuine you are. And that's something special. And I see it really actually exploding, because you can only be so fake, right? The truth will come out eventually, right? It always does. And always the good guys always win. And I want to go back to your, thank you for sharing on your marriage side as well, because every situation is different. It's not black and white. And this is the point where communication really, really, really matters. And I was abandoned by my mother. And that's where the divorce just happened. And then my father passed away. But the way you phrased it, you were open and honest, and you communicated with your wife or your ex-wife. And the fact that you guys were able to do that and be transparent and have Ned Flanders come in, right? I mean, that's a beautiful relationship, and technically an old marriage that's actually still a good marriage in the friendship and community. And so, no, I think, again, I'm blanking out.
That's all good.
No, thank you again for sharing that story. And I'm very fortunate that I'm actually here on this podcast. So thanks for having me here, Jeremy.
Awesome, man. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I'm happy to call you a friend now, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.